Hello and welcome to Consolation League, a Warhammer podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott,
And I'm Paul.
and today we're just going to be shooting the shit about Warhammer. We're going to
Yeah,
talk
no
a
one to
little,
interview.
no
No one
interviews
interview.
today.
No interviews today.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about a new league that's starting up at Critical Hit, um,
Mhm.
a new Kill Team League, which is going to be really interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some AOS and everything. At time of recording, I do want to give a big shout out, congratulations, and you guys are doing awesome to the all the people that are friends of the podcast down playing at Worlds right now. We've got three
Down
or
in
four
Atlanta.
friends in Atlanta playing in the Worlds, kicking ass and taking names. So way to go! We're really proud of you guys, and can't wait to
Mhm.
hear how the whole experience was. Been
Yeah.
getting pictures here and there, but really looking forward to hearing how it goes. So, way to go.
Yeah, I've been following it on and off during the day today, and because time of recording, this is November 21st, so it's day one of
Hmm.
the tournament down there in Atlanta, and it's exciting, man. It must be. I can only imagine how tough those matches will be when the entry is that you have to have won, like,
Yeah,
or I guess placed at a GT,
yeah,
podiumed or whatever.
yeah.
So
There won't be any easy games. They're all going to be hard fought games.
yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, every
Yeah,
last one, and it's over like 200 players, so
yeah. I think it's yeah.
can't
Two,
even wrap my head around it.
no, no. The size and scope of that just must be just incredible. I saw a picture of the giant. Nick sent a picture this morning of
Mhm.
a giant Terminator
Yeah,
as you're entering, and it's
yeah,
just like, oh, to be there and see that kind of
awesome.
stuff, it would just
Yeah.
be incredible. So,
I think I will pinch my pennies and save up to maybe participate in the grand narrative because
oh,
let's
really?
be honest, I'm not winning a golden ticket anytime soon.
I
Uh,
will pay for my entrance. Thank
I
you very
will
much.
pay to attend, just like all the other punters. Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, and I saw like in the photos you shared with me, like they had their like merch booth set up,
Yeah.
and so yeah, no, it looks absolutely awesome. But on the subject of local gaming, it's funny that you bring up the Kill Team League because 2 weekends ago, I think the starter box was out. It was like
Yes.
already on pre-order, and then but it was out, and I remember seeing it at Kingston Nexus, and I was like, pretty tempted. But you have picked it up,
I picked up both Hivestorm and the starter set.
right?
Hivestorm so that I can get some of the terrain because Kill Team's got some really, really cool terrain.
Yeah.
And I tried doing the whole paper terrain thing and different stuff around
No,
the house
forget
for
it.
it. It's different because in the Kill Team games, you play on the different levels, and
Yeah.
it's kind of promoted to do that. So
Mm,
you really want multi-level terrain in order to
right.
do it. So it's a little different than using. And when my nephew was down, we played with some cereal boxes and stuff for line of sight blocking on actual
But
Warhammer games. You can't do that with Kill Team. It's not quite the same kind of vibe.
you have is it
Titans terrain and yeah.
Titan's terrain, and that I guess because those are kind of like tiles, it doesn't quite work the same.
That's the
That's
challenge
the
that I have with
problem.
it. It's a really cool thing if you want to set up an entire table,
Hmm.
and get some things going there. But when you're trying to make it, he and I were playing like 1,000 point matches,
Yeah.
so we wanted a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller,
Hmm.
little bit more nimble, and it was just a
Right.
little bit of a challenge in order to do that.
Yeah. The Titan's terrain is better for your 44 by 60-inch
Yeah,
games.
100%.
Uh, Yeah, and it cleans up quite nicely. Not a sponsor of the show, but if they're interested in sending me a box, I'm
Yeah.
happy to receive it and and take
Yeah.
it for a test spin. Yeah,
It's really
absolutely.
cool. And yeah, so I picked up Hivestorm and then
Hmm.
yesterday the starter set came in, which is the Angels of Death, the Space Marine
Yeah.
cohort and or kill team, and then the
Hmm.
Death Guard kill team. So my son Sam has
Hmm.
decided to join the league with me,
Hmm.
and at the point of recording, he is deciding to do Death Guard.
Yeah, cool.
So he's going to be playing them. So he and I, after we record tonight, are going to get a game in and we're going to play. And we've played one or two games before, but we're going to play it again and kind of expand on the rules. And I'm kind of I'm learning it at the same time as he is, but I'm
Hmm.
introducing him to like the first game we played was just move and shoot. Get the idea of moving, line of sight blocking,
Right.
shooting, kind of get the
Now,
vibe for that because it's skirmish.
now he's just turned 14.
Yes.
So the time of letting him win and playing just
Oh yeah, I'm going to be
kill as
letting
much as
that
you
go.
can are over.
Yeah.
You're a man
Yes.
now, son.
Yeah.
It's time to take your beating.
It's yes, it's going to be, oh, I can roll fives, no problem, son.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
On this one, this is going to happen.
Yeah, this is happening. Yeah.
This is happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll
Well,
be
that's
playing that
good.
with proper rules and I'm
Hmm.
building him up into like, okay, playing with the objectives, playing with that kind of thing, just so that he gets it. The league is
Right.
starting on December 3rd and it
So you
runs
have a
until
week.
January 28th. And it's
Hmm.
going to be it's every Tuesday at Critical Hit. There might still be spots open if people are interested. Definitely sign up.
Very cool.
Every Tuesday, he and I will go. We'll each get a match in,
Hmm.
and we'll play at home just to keep our skills kind of going. So, got a
That's
few kill
awesome.
teams as well. We've got
Hmm.
the Death Guard, the
Hmm.
thing. I picked up some Blooded and Legionnaires.
Oh, okay.
The Blooded are kind of Chaos Astra Militarum,
Yep.
with a really cool looking Traitor Ogren
Hmm.
model. So I'm really looking forward to playing with some of these things and again learning the rules and learning the ins and outs of this new game. It's a lot of fun. It's very complicated.
Hmm. I know Dave and Tommy play it here locally, and Dave's been chatting it up to me quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I mean, there is an appeal to it in that most people have a kill team
Yep.
because if you've got some Space Marines, you probably already have a kill team.
You could make one, yeah.
If you have Death Guard, you probably already have a kill team. Like you can build those lists
Yep.
relatively simply, and the model count is low, right? It's never above 10, I
It's
think.
there are now it
Mm,
kind of goes to the 10 to 14 range, I think
okay.
model size. I think the biggest one is the Gellerpox, which is kind of like Demon Nurgle.
Yes. They
Um
are
I
yeah. I
think
think they're mutants or something like that, or
it's
I
like
don't know.
14 models or something like that, but most of the other
Hmm.
ones stay, you're right. The kind of break point is usually around 10.
Hmm.
The more elites have less because their individual models have more wounds,
Yeah.
um, and that kind of thing. But it's a fun game.
Hmm.
It's it's a little bit more I think engaging for
Hmm.
especially the younger group and getting
Hmm.
younger people into it because it is I take a turn, you take a turn. It's
Right.
instantly like I move one model, you move a model and decide. And then we do that until all the models have actually moved, and then we switch
Okay.
turns. So it's a lot more engaging right off the bat.
And so you work your way through the phases that way.
You work your way, so the way it kind of works is you can set your operatives into two different kind of things. You can put them into engage or conceal. And
Okay.
conceal is like basically sneaking around the map and getting cover on everything they do, and they can't be shot in certain things unless somebody's at a higher vantage point and things like that. Or you're putting them into engage, which is like I'm going to shoot, I'm going to charge, I'm going to do some of these things. But what it is each model, it's kind of like an RTS.
Hmm.
Um, in that each model has a limited number of moves it can make in that turn. So, and
Okay.
you have action points that you spend in order to do things. So charging, shooting, dashing. So you're adding a little bit of extra distance to your thing. Um, it kind of works like that. It's not got the traditional phases per se
Mm.
that 40K has, which is why it's hard to compare it to 40K because it is a completely different way of playing the game.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it is a
Interesting.
lot of fun. Every model has its own abilities. Each
Hmm.
kill team has its own kind of like army rule.
Hmm.
Um, and so you're playing within those, and then you're still trying to do melee and shooting and secure objectives or pick things up. And it's a lot
Right.
of fun. It's a really cool game to get in and play in an hour, hour and a half type of thing.
Now the lists are set, right? You're not list building.
Right. It is set. Um, you've got there's a little bit of list building that you can do, but the operatives are set.
Hmm.
But if you're allowed to take 10, you might have 10 to 12 models in your kind of catalog. So it's deciding how many gunners am I going to take, how many
Oh,
warriors
okay.
am I going to take a couple, am I going to take a heavy as well as these things. In most of the lists, they have a trooper, warrior, kind of soldier type of
Hmm.
category that you can take multiples of. But
Okay.
then they've got special units that are your flamers, let's say, or your heavy weapon guys, or a medic, or
Hmm.
a bomber, grenadier, those kind of things where you can take one per team
Right.
and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a it's probably closer to combat patrol
Hmm.
in that there's a finite number of combinations that you can actually use
Right.
in the list, but you can equip them in whatever way you want.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
I
it's
think I think one of the things that's obviously appealing about it too is like it's way more accessible money wise too, because it's you buy one box and you're kind of
yes.
that's it. It's $70 or whatever, and
Hmm.
you've got a kill team, and
And you can
away
play
you
as many
go.
games as you want. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot better that way. And like I say, it's played on a 22 by 30
Hmm.
sheet, so it's a real quick kitchen table game.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can set it up really quickly and get going with a few. You don't even need as many dice, excuse me, as you need in 40K. It's
Okay.
a lot easier to play. You're
Hmm.
getting away with rolling like 4 to 5 dice at a time, if that.
Oh,
But
sounds good.
it's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
It's a very different. It's going to be a very different game to play because it's smaller, it's skirmish, so the
Yeah.
strategy has to apply right off the bat. Um, and your deployment zone is like 3 or 6 inches, depending on whether you're doing the short or long edges of
Right.
the map. So you're far back, and then you're kind of moving in, and
Right.
it's really cool because you're responding right away to what your opponent's doing. They move one guy, it's like, okay, how am I going to counteract that? Or I can see what they're trying to do over there, so I'm going to try and do something different over here. Uh,
Gotcha.
that kind
Hmm.
of thing. It's a lot more
It's
strategy will come into it, and then quicker, I should say,
it's
not more.
fast. It does sound faster. Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, the I guess the appeal is that it's more like a board game in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So
Hmm.
unpack it and play kind of right out of the box.
Yeah. And you can play it on boarding action maps. You can play it with the stuff that the kill team itself comes with.
Mm.
Because they called it a season of Kill Team on Gallo Dark, which was
That's right.
basically a
That
Space Hulk.
so yeah, it
So
used all the boarding action terrain, right?
yeah, yeah. So
Right.
I've got that stuff downstairs, so I can play with those kind of maps. I can play with
Hmm.
different kind of cityscape maps. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So you've got two game systems now. You just need a third.
I
That's
just
what I'm
need
hearing.
AOS. What actually reminded me of when you were talking about AOS before was there was like you do something, I do something like
Hmm.
almost right away type of
Hmm.
aspect to it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's a lot like Kill Team in that
Yeah.
it's on a larger scale with AOS,
Hmm.
but it's like, okay, it turns it into a more engaging game. It's not one of those, well, I'm standing here waiting for 15 minutes while my opponent moves all 40 models that they've got on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does sound a little bit faster that way for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Interesting. So that'll be every Tuesday over at Critical Hit
Every
Gaming
Tuesday at Critical
Lounge.
Hit. Yeah.
Uh, and people sign up on Best Coast Pairings. Is that where
Yes.
you sign up?
BCP is how you can sign up. You can go to the Critical Hit website, and I think they've got a link there.
Hmm.
I believe there was still spaces available. Right now, I believe there was 10 to 15 of us kind of signed up, and there's space for at least another five.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a
it's a
pretty good,
it should be a good
decent amount of
turnout.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine it will culminate in a playoff or some kind of tournament, maybe.
There is a tournament I think it's 2 weeks before the end of the entire thing sometime in early January or mid-January.
Oh,
There's going to
cool.
be a Kill Team tournament that anybody
Hmm.
can attend.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but yeah, the league people will definitely be in attendance at that one.
I would expect so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm really
so
looking forward to it. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm really psyched that Sam is going to be in it. I
yeah.
think it's going to be fun for him to kind of play, and
I mean,
it's,
playing strangers is a big jump.
it's a huge jump. It's
Yeah,
going to be a huge jump for him.
yeah,
So it's going to be great. But I love the fact that he was interested in it. I mentioned it to him.
yes.
He was interested, and so it's going to
Hmm.
be introducing him, and potentially he'll get some of his friends into it too, type of thing. And then it'll just be something that a lot of people can do.
And then yeah,
Build some
grow that
community.
community and then gateway them into 40K and other
Hmm.
sort of things once they get a taste. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's great. And then what's on the books for you in terms of your 40K side of things?
40K. The next thing I've got is a tournament in Lindsay on December 7th. I'll be heading up there to play in a tournament. Really
And
looking forward to that.
how many people is that one?
Uh, t- I'll have to look that up. It was somewhere in the 16 to 20 range, so
Cool.
it'll be a nice
Manageable number.
manageable
Yeah.
size, 3 to 4 games a day in the day type of thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Hmm.
Nice. I've got a long eye myself after talking with Nick last episode. Catch it wherever you listen to podcasts if you missed it.
Hmm.
I want to try one of those Red Dragon RTs or GTs.
Yeah,
They've got a couple coming up, and I'm probably going to make the drive out to one of them, I think, in the new year. I think
yeah.
they have a couple events coming up in December, but the timing just doesn't work. It sounds like they have a similar Santa themed 1000 point kind of community building
Nice.
tournament. I think it's December 21st for people out in the East Region, Ottawa way. But I am definitely, I think not only, it'll be good for the show.
Hmm.
Sometimes these things are good for the show, but I think it'll be fun just to get out there and see what other local tournaments are doing, what they're up
Hmm.
to, what the scene's like. We talked with Nick about the meta,
Yeah.
like just see what's going on in different areas and playing different players and
That's what I'm looking
uh,
forward to going up to the Lindsay one is just seeing, okay, how are it's not that far away, but how are things
no.
different in just that hour transit
Hmm.
outside of the area, outside of the like core GTA type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I'm curious.
I think it's cool. I think
Hmm.
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, what about you?
Um,
What's coming up for you?
so locally, I've been playing in the AOS League, so I got another AOS game in on this past weekend. Slaves to Darkness, run by me, versus Dave's Soulblight Gravelords, the vampires. It was very cool.
Those are
I
some
ended up
cool models.
very cool models. He had like a vampire lord on a dragon. He had like 10 blood knights, all the dire wolves you can shake a stick at. So like these werewolf zombie things. He had a couple cool vampire characters, one Radakar the Beast and another one Lady something, who's
Okay.
also kind of like uh vampire wolfy kind of themed.
Hmm.
The army's got some cool synergies. They've got this regenerating thing. It seems like a lot of free movement. Uh, Dave and I had a lot of fun chatting and laughing the whole time. Narrow victory for me. Like I think I beat him by
Okay.
2 points. It was a matter of like someone like I scored one objective more than him. It was
Right.
that close a game.
That's
Uh,
fantastic.
right down to like the fifth round, like the bottom of the fifth, like um just eked out I made a couple charges I needed to make, and that's what won the game,
That's
essentially.
awesome.
Uh So I'm still working through painting all of that to get organized for uh, Festival of the White Dwarf, the 2,000 point Age of Sigmar tournament at Kingston Gaming Nexus on December 1st. I think there's only about 10 people signed up so far, maybe a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, but I know from watching the board that there's still plenty of spots available for anyone who wants to come out and wreak havoc in the medieval fantasy world of Sigmar because
Hmm.
it's a riot. And I'm absolutely loving it.
And
There's something
painting
nice.
isn't a requirement. It's just something you
No,
want to have done
no,
for you.
it's just a personal
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So,
you can have gray, just built models with the glue still drying. That is not an issue. It is, um, we want people to come out and get into this and keep and play.
hmm.
I think the Welcome Day OS tournament, had something in the neighborhood of like 20 odd players. So it'd be great to see the same number again.
Hmm.
Um, fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm kind of I'm in that part of like, my weakest part of these games, which is like how to improve your list, how to figure out what worked and what didn't work, and trying to take lessons from, my games of 40K or my games of
Hmm.
Heresy and be like, okay, how can I make this a bit better? Or then sometimes I guess you are limited by what your army can do.
Yep.
Mine's a very aggressive, uh, melee focused army with no
Hmm.
shooting. Um, so I'm tweaking my list and hemming and hawing over a few things. I love the Abraxia model. I think she's got a great war scroll. Um, but she's 360 points.
Yeah.
So she's quite expensive. And if I traded her out for something else, I might get more punch. Because every time I've played with her, she kind of whiffs a little bit, which is hard. It's hard to sit with.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
it's hard.
and
Hard to with
something,
these big hero units, right? When they don't perform, and you're
yeah,
like,
that's just it.
oh, it's twice now you didn't do what I thought you would do. So
Yes.
either I don't understand the game, which is entirely possible,
Hmm.
or it's the value's not there in the
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So
I meant to ask Nick about this, and because I've been
mm,
curious when we've been talking to a bunch of different people, Jordan, Nick, Dave,
mm.
Brian, all these kind of things, Tommy and them. When it comes down to it, are you at the stage where you're feeling a little bit like your list building or playing is a little bit of work and it's not as much fun?
Mm.
Or is it still it's fun and you're enjoying the work that you're having to do into it?
Oh, I think it's still fun and I still enjoy it. I just want to win, God damn it.
At least you're honest.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, is that too much to ask?
Just
I'm
once, just once.
I'm prepping as like a sidebar. I'm like bouncing around on my Secret Santa list, right? And I hover between like silly and being as fun as possible with it and who cares? And the other one I'm like, well, I've played this before and half of the lists weren't like fun. They were like, fun isn't they were like comical or whimsical. I'm like,
Mhm.
some of the lists were just like downsized killer 2000 lists.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not that they had like, I mean, 1,000 points you can't fit in, all your hammer units, but there's still
You
some
can still do
hammers in
some
there.
damage in there.
Yeah,
Yeah. A monolith
and
still fits in 1,000 points.
it does indeed. Oh yeah, I mean, every
Like,
every Necron list I've built has my monolith in it.
yeah.
I'm like,
So,
it's the centerpiece of uh it's my whole thing, man. Like I
yeah.
love that model. I love that data sheet. Like I'm like, it'd be nice if I could squeeze in a Void Dragon or a Nightbringer, but I don't think that's in the spirit of the game. I
Mhm.
also like I'm toying with a Death Guard list with like Mortarion, Typhus, and the rest just vehicles, just because I think that's weird and might be funny. But then I might, is that way too overpowered? Like,
I was
you know what
think
I mean?
like Mortarion, Typhus, and just everything else is just Poxwalkers.
I don't have enough Poxwalkers. I only have, and they're only
Like,
50 points for 10.
oh Jesus.
So, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'd be building Poxwalkers until the new year if I had to just do. That would be a fun list, though. That would
Yeah.
actually be a lot of fun.
Just a
Um,
shambling horde the entire
just a shambling
time
horde.
with feel no pains.
Yeah, because I my because the next by the time this will probably come out Sunday or so, I
Yep.
imagine. And then so the following Sunday I'll have the Age of Sigmar tournament, and then the weekend following that, you have your Lindsay tournament, and I
Yep.
have Secret Santa. So it's one of those the next 2 weeks are kind of jam-packed, so I'm
Hmm.
juggling the two things at once. On an exciting note, to circle back to Age of Sigmar, the Slaves to Darkness Battle Tome will be out
Yep.
December, the week, I think it's December 7th.
And they just had some new models released or announced, didn't they? Or is
No,
it just the tome?
just the tome. There's a
Oh,
new
okay.
Chaos Sorcerer Lord model,
That's the one I'm thinking of.
which just upgrades the old one. And puts it on. I've heard it's going up to a 40 millimeter base from 32. So that kind of forces those of us that have the 32 one to either rip it off its base and put it on a new one or buy this new model, whatever. And
Hmm.
then the other thing they've put out is Abraxia on her own because she was only previously available in like a box set with a unit of Varangard.
Right.
Um, her like beefed up cavalry bodyguards, for lack of a better way to describe them. So she's now available to be purchased on her own, which is, it's a great model, and I just can't make her work right now. I should say that because she does the job of drawing a lot of heat,
I was
but
gonna
then
ask, what is it that that you want her to do that she's not doing?
so she
Win the
has
game.
this. Yeah, I want her to win the game on her own.
On her
She has a great synergy with the Varangard, where they have an ability that allows them to fight twice.
own. Hmm.
So that's a huge perk, except when they fight the second time, they fight last. So all the other combats get resolved and then they get to go. Um, what she does is when they're wholly within 12 inches of her, they ignore the strike last part. So they get
Oh.
to fight twice. So I let them fight first. So say I choose, we get them in, they're within 12 of her, and I'm fighting your um, Night Haunt.
Hmm.
So my Varangard I'm like, it's my turn, so I'll activate the Varangard first. I'll declare I'm going to use the fight twice ability, and I'll use my first attack on your unit. Now you'll activate a unit and fight back. And now I'll be like, okay, I'm going to come back to these Varangard and they're going to hit you again. As opposed to, waiting until everything's well and done. You could pile in a number of attacks into them and maybe even wipe them out or whatever.
Hmm.
And they really punch up. They do a really good job. Um, so she's good for that. She's good for buffing them. And on her own, if you hit her in combat on a 4 up, you roll a dice for every point of damage you take. And on a 4 up, she does one mortal damage back to you. So that's kind of like hurting her costs you,
Hmm.
right? So that's okay. And then she has an ability, you roll a dice at the start of every combat phase, and on like a 2 to 5 her spear gets, I think, +1 damage, and then on a 6, it gets crit mortals and the bonus to damage. So that's good too.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the downside was when I was using her to fight Dave. Um, it seemed like, I mean, she would whiff hitting because she hits on threes and wounds on threes or I rolled poorly,
Hmm.
or I think I rolled a couple times on that spear ability and got ones, so nothing happens. Just
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. Or he made, because his army, every unit has ward saves, so
Yeah.
every unit has a 6 up, feel no pain essentially. And he would make all his like he'd make a ton of ward saves and things like that. So just the cost of her. But
Right.
I did use the fight twice ability and it worked out great. It did what I needed it to do. So I don't know. It's something I'm still kind of thinking through.
Hmm. If you
But my
were to take her out, what would you replace her with? Or is that what you're still kind of struggling with?
I mean, it's hard because everything in Sigmar, the points values on everything is higher, it
Hmm.
seems. And so like characters who you might think this character is to me, if this was 40K, this guy would be like 60 points.
Hmm.
Well, they're 120 points in Age of Sigmar. A brick of Chaos Warriors is 200 points. And it's just sort of like, so you're 10, it's like 10 assault intercessors being 200 points.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, really? They, they get a +1 to attack if they're contesting an objective, and they have lethal hits. They have critical hits.
Right.
Uh, but that's it. Not crit mortals. It's just like crits, auto wounds. So it's like, okay. I mean, they do a ton of attacks. They can take a lot of damage and all that good stuff. But yeah, I've been playing around with adding another. I have a Chaos Lord on Karkadrak that I might throw into the list instead of her.
Hmm.
I think it'll allow me to add another unit in somewhere else, which might be tasty.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's just things that kind of, I'm bouncing around. I don't know. I won't have any time to practice any of it, so I'm not sure. But if you're an AOS fan and you've got some bright ideas, throw them in the comments.
Hmm.
Because yeah, I find it's something I always struggle with is like, what's the clear path to take here? What's the math hammer on it? And I don't like doing a tremendous amount of like Googling, or
Yeah.
I don't want to cut and paste other people's lists. I do kind of want to, figure things out on my own a bit.
Hmm.
Maybe that's silly, but
I think that's valid. I mean, that's the
mm,
problem that I have when I go looking and I look at lists. I'm like, okay, I mean, for Votan, it's a limited number that I can play with. So
yeah.
it's like you're building a list while 14 other people have built that same list. It's
Hmm.
really skill at that point of whether you're able to execute on it. But I think
Yeah.
it's better to put the time in and figure out what's working and not working in your list. Um,
Agreed. It's a dollars and cents thing too. Like
oh yeah,
I can
completely.
look online and I have 10 chosen and I run a brick of 10 chosen, so that's fine. But
Mhm.
I know a lot of the advice will be like, well, instead of running 3 Vanguard, run 6, like
Yeah.
reinforce the unit and run the max. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go out and buy another box of Vanguard,
Hmm.
like just to do that. Like I want to spread the thread around in different ways and I want to play with what I've got.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where like, how do I make this list I think the list works. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Hmm.
there's a
Oh,
lot of
you've
punch
won
to
and
it.
you've been
I
winning,
won a
so
game and I lost a game. So I'm happy with that performance. Like, that's already 50% better than what I normally do. But, uh, I am aware of its vulnerabilities.
hmm.
And like going into, even if I played Dave again, it was that close that, it I couldn't. I got denied on battle tactics a few times,
Hmm.
um, and that's where he's a skilled player, and uh, it was that close. Then I didn't
Hmm.
feel like my list had enough, or the list isn't like so overpowered that it can't, that it just overwhelms them.
Yeah.
And certainly Ian. We had a really close game until the end, where it was just about tabled and I couldn't score anything to maintain the lead. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it'll be good to like I always like to ask the people we interview about like list building and I
Hmm.
guess it's practice really. I mean, a lot of people talk about list building, but then there's so much talk of, tabletop simulator and like getting games in and practicing that's really how you improve lists
It's grinding.
and it's grinding. It's
That's what.
grinding, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't
hmm That's what a
and
lot of it
style of
is.
play. Yeah, so
And that's what I was
and
meaning by like the fun work. Like
yeah,
at what
yeah.
it's a delicate balance because when it starts to turn into work, that's when it's not going to be a
When it starts
hobby.
to turn into work, I'll just go back to heresy.
Well, that's the thing. That's the nice thing about having
Yeah,
the other systems to go to be like, you know what, I need a fresh air
yeah.
for this.
And and let's face it, I have a Stormcast Eternal. I have 2,000 points of Stormcast Eternals
Right.
sitting on sprues, like about half built, and the other half sitting on sprues from various starter boxes that I'm like, at any moment I could just finish building these, spray them gold, and let's go.
hmm
Right? So I'm not. I can totally pivot off of this and like, when this battle tome comes out, it might be time to try a new army for AOS. The new year might be the time to switch to
hmm
give something else a taste. Because I'm already thinking ahead to 40K and the new year,
Yep.
even
Me
though I
too.
haven't played as much 40K as I'd have liked. But I'm kind of like, what do I want to play?
hmm
Uh, come 2025.
Yeah.
What are you what are you thinking?
I'm in the somewhere in the Tyranid camp. I'm either GSC or Tyranids themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you should have talked to me like when 10th launched because
No,
I
I
sat
know, and
on
I.
those Tyranid models for ages.
hmm Yeah, it's one of those things where I really like the models. I don't know a lot about how the army plays, so it
Hmm.
would be a lot of grinding, playing, understanding. I know some of its stuff is broken. I know it's supposed to be, it can be fairly strong. I know GSC right now is really good,
Hmm.
but I don't want to chase the thing that's good. I just want to
Yeah.
find something that I think looks cool and that I would have fun playing with.
Yeah.
Because I've played Space Marines and they're a lot of fun,
Hmm.
but I want to keep trying something different.
Yeah.
40K is a big universe, so I want to play different things in the universe.
Right. Right. Hmm.
What about you? What are you thinking?
I'm toying with Dark Angels because I bought that box and I
Yep.
built everything in it. Um, and I'm just kind of sitting on it. Uh, but I'm also toying with, um, I'm torn because I'm also toying with Custodes
hmm
because I've got a bunch of them built as well. And I'm also torn between, I've got a lot of Eldar models from when we
I
both
was waiting
started
for
in
you to say
this.
that. I was waiting for you to say
Yeah.
it.
And
Your Avatar of Cain, just
yeah,
calling to
exactly.
you.
Exactly. And I bought them when during the ninth edition kind of revamp, and I was like just hobbying away on them and got a few units painted up. And I was like, these are fun to paint, and you know, it might be fun to play something totally different that's glass cannony.
hmm
Because I'm used to, I'm playing things that are, either, the Necrons die and come back and
hmm
or Space Marines were tough, or Death Guard were tough, and Death Guard in particular are tough. It's hard, man. This playing one army at a time thing is
Well, it's
why can't I
it's
just play a bunch of armies and be terrible at all of them? And then also,
why can't I just suck at the game and be
yeah,
happy with that?
I should just go back to yeah, not that I ever stopped sucking at the game, but yeah, because I want to paint up an Alpha Legion for Chaos Space Marines, and I want to play the Deceptors. No one
Yeah.
plays it.
No, you've been talking about that since that book came out. You're like, that's the
I
one
was
to
like,
play
I'm completely wrong, obviously, but it looks
for
like it
fun.
would be a lot of fun.
hmm
Um, and is there a way to play that where you're cagey all the time? You know what I mean? But just, I don't
Hmm.
know. So I got lots of ideas. Uh, I don't know where I'll land.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now I'm focused on like 40K. I've still got the rest of that league going. I think it's got one more round
Right.
to go. And then Kill Team is kind of on my plate right now, is what I'm focused
Yeah.
on. I'm hoping, strongly hoping, that the experience that I garner from playing in this league with Kill Team will
Hmm.
feed some strategy and skills that go into the other games,
Yeah.
that go into 40K and that kind of thing. Like that's the ultimate hope, is that it'll all just help me get better.
Hmm.
But we'll see. I need to decide. Um, I watched a video where somebody was talking when I was researching like how to play Kill Team and something like that, and I can't remember the YouTube that I ended up watching, the channel, but it was like how to not suck at this game. And one of the
Right.
things the guy said was, "Well, you have to decide, do you really care,
Yeah.
like of just how bad you are at the game?"
Right.
Um,
It's a good point. Does
and
this
and
actually matter to me?
it resonated with me, and I was like, you know what? Yeah,
Hmm.
I want to be good enough that I can win some
Hmm.
games, but I'm
Hmm.
not torn to pieces if I lose.
Yeah.
Like I want to still do it for the fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a very good it's a good question to ask yourself. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, so next week's episode should be a tournament feedback episode.
Hmm.
The conclusion of my second Age of Sigmar tournament.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you actually run in your list.
Yeah, well, never mind mine. Janet's gonna be rocking her Daughters of Cain at it.
Oh,
So
there you go. Looking forward
it's
to hearing
there's
about
gonna be a
that
lot
too.
to chat about and yeah, and get out there and I'm sure I'll still land firmly in the Consolation League. I'll be happily there, but I'll be rocking my shirt there at the
Good.
tournament.
Good stuff. And
Yeah,
I'll provide some feedback on how well, no, the league won't have started by then, but how the progress into learning Kill Team is going.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.